Willard Whitcomb is just one of the many great characters on the resume of Herbert Marshall. Now, he's not an actor synonymous with noir, but the urbane Englishman always displayed a stiff upper lip, either as a victim or a villain in films like The Letter, Crack Up, The Underworld Story, and Angel Face. And if the gait seemed as stiff as the lip, that's because his leg was made of wood, the result of an injury suffered in the First World War. Director Curtis Bernhardt began his career as a theater actor in Germany, but by the mid-1920s, he was dead set on directing. Theater or film, it really didn't matter. He was part of the leftist movement in Berlin, and in 1924 shot a feature funded by the communists called War, about a blind soldier leading a pacifist movement in Berlin. A few years later, he directed The Souls of Children Accuse You, an anti-abortion tract funded by the Catholic Church. Bernhardt took personal pride in having been hired by both communists and Catholics to convincingly sell their stories. Unlike directors who imposed their personalities on whatever script they were given, Bernhardt prided himself on finding a style distinctive to each story he told. That could be why he never really garnered much of a reputation in a business that caters to larger-than-life artists. Although he's not as celebrated as expat contemporaries such as Fritz Lang, F.W. Murnau, Ernst Lubitsch, or Billy Wilder, it's worth noting that in the late 20s, Bernhardt directed several films, The Last Fort, The Last Company, The Rebel, as well as the early Marlene Dietrich silent The Woman Men Yearn For, that established him as one of the prominent artists of the early German sound era. In 1932, Germany's best and brightest filmmakers were called together to receive guidelines from Joseph Goebbels, soon to be the Third Reich's Minister of Propaganda, on the future of filmmaking under Nazi rule. And Goebbels offered 5 examples of the type of film the Nazis wanted to make. Greta Garbo's 1927 version of Anna Karenina, directed by Edmund Goulding, Fritz Lang's Die Nibelungen, Sergei Eisenstein's Potemkin, not for its communist poison, Goebbels noted, but for the style of its filmmaking, and 2 pictures by Kurt Bernhardt, The Last Company and The Rebel. And Goebbels was particularly fond of these 5 because, in his words, none of them could have been conceived in the degenerate brain of a Jewish director. Well, of course, Lang, Eisenstein, and Bernhardt, they were all Jewish. After this meeting, Bernhardt understandably felt his future lay in France, not Germany. Fortunately, in 1933, he was hired by a French film company to direct The Tunnel in Paris. Unfortunately, as soon as he arrived in the City of Lights, the producer announced, "Good news, we're shooting the whole picture in Munich." Bernhardt was in the unenviable position of being a Jew in Germany and a German in France. It wasn't until 1939 that the director, under constant scrutiny by the Third Reich, was able to flee the Nazis, coming to America with no money except what had been cabled to him by a former colleague, director Henry Koster. In short order, Bernhardt was weighing 7-year contracts from both Warner Brothers and MGM. And later this year, I'll be presenting another of the director's best American films, Possessed, in which he guided Joan Crawford to her 2nd Oscar nomination. Well, as much as a director guides Joan Crawford anywhere. Now, next week on Noir Alley, Film Noir's answer to Romeo and Juliet, which marked the directing debut of one of American cinema's most distinctive and sensitive artists. Until then, be sure to join the Noir Alley conversation on Facebook and follow us on Twitter for upcoming titles and information. Now, if you'll excuse me, I am overdue for my daily dose of narco synthesis, the liquid variety.